The fire smelled normal. That was the part Tom Navarro couldn't get past, sitting in the ER waiting room at 3 a.m. with his wife wrapped in a foil blanket and his 8-month-old daughter connected to an oxygen mask. The fire smelled exactly like every other fire they'd built in that fireplace. Oak and cedar. Warmth. Winter. The Doberman named Juno had never been afraid of the fireplace. She slept in front of it most evenings, her black coat absorbing heat, her rust-colored markings catching the glow. She was 3 years old, 68 pounds, and she had a reputation in the neighborhood as the dog who looked dangerous and acted like a cat. On the night of February 2nd, the Navarros built a fire at 7 p.m. Standard evening. Tom loaded the grate with seasoned oak. Valerie nursed the baby, Marisol, in the recliner. Juno lay on the rug. At 8:30, Juno stood up. She walked to Marisol's bouncer, gripped the edge of the baby blanket in her teeth, and pulled it toward the front door. Valerie laughed. Tom recorded it on his phone. The dog dragging a blanket across the living room like she was packing a suitcase. He posted it to the family group chat. At 9:15, Juno did it again. This time she pulled the blanket off Marisol entirely, dragged it to the door, and stood there with it in her mouth, staring at Tom. "She wants to go out," Valerie said. Juno didn't go out. She dropped the blanket on the threshold and went back for Marisol. She nudged the bouncer with her nose, pushing it toward the door. Tom stopped the bouncer. "Juno, enough." Juno circled the bouncer twice, then went to the fireplace. She stood 6 inches from the hearth, nose pointed at the damper lever, and began whining. Not barking. A high, tight whine that vibrated in her chest. Tom checked the fire. The damper was open. The flames were normal. The smoke was going up the flue the way it always did. He closed the glass doors on the fireplace and told Juno to lie down. She didn't. She went back to Marisol and resumed pushing the bouncer toward the front door. Juno had moved the blanket 3 more times and had twice attempted to pull the bouncer by its fabric handle. The behavior was escalating. Tom closed Juno in the bedroom. She scratched at the door for 45 minutes. Then she started howling, a sustained low-frequency vocalization that rattled the bedroom window. Tom was ready to call the emergency vet. He thought something was medically wrong. A seizure, a neurological event. He had the number dialed when Valerie said she had a headache. Tom had a headache too. He'd had it for about 20 minutes but hadn't mentioned it because he assumed it was tension from the dog. He looked at Marisol. The baby was fussy, not crying hard, a low, irritable whine. Her face slightly flushed. Tom opened the bedroom door. Juno shot out, grabbed the blanket, ran to the front door and stood there trembling. Her whine was now continuous. Tom opened the front door. The cold air hit his face and the headache receded by half in 30 seconds. They arrived in 7 minutes with a CO detector. The reading in the living room was 187 parts per million. The bedroom where he'd locked Juno was at 94. The threshold for evacuating a home is 35. The chimney flue had a partial blockage. A bird's nest built in the fall had collapsed inward and lodged against the damper track. The damper appeared open but was only 60% clear. Carbon monoxide had been pooling in the living room for over 2 hours. The firefighter told Tom that at 187 ppm, an adult begins experiencing confusion and impaired judgment within 90 minutes. An infant, with smaller lungs and faster respiration, reaches dangerous saturation in half that time. Marisol had been breathing it for over 2 hours. If stories about the ones who refuse to stop warning us stay with you, subscribe. You're exactly where you need to be. At the hospital, Marisol's carboxyhemoglobin level was 11.2%. The pediatric toxicologist administered supplemental oxygen and monitored her for 6 hours. She recovered fully. Another 40 minutes, the doctor said. and we'd be talking about hyperbaric oxygen treatment. Maybe worse. Tom sat in the hallway with his phone and scrolled back to the video he'd recorded at 8:30. Juno, pulling the blanket, everyone laughing. She had been trying to evacuate the baby for 4 hours. Has your dog ever acted strange around a fireplace, heater, or stove, and you didn't understand why? Tell us. Your story might save someone's family. The chimney was repaired the following week. Tom installed 4 hardwired carbon monoxide detectors. One in every room. He never built another fire without checking the flue with a flashlight first. Every silent hero deserves to be heard. Valerie put a small brass nameplate on the mantel that spring. She didn't tell Tom she'd ordered it. He found it one evening after work, centered above the firebox. It said one word, Juno. Below it, the dog slept on the rug, her chin on her paws, her nose turned toward the nursery.